Greetings, everybody. Welcome to the Wednesday, August 17th, 2016 episode of Free Webinar Wednesdays. This is Eric Cook, and I'm with WSI Digital Marketing, where we work with businesses and organizations, helping them better understand and leverage the power of the internet as a strategic business tool. You can learn more about me and WSI online at www.poweredbywsi.com. With me this week is my good friend and Free Webinar Wednesday partner, Mr. Jeff Simpkins. Jeff, say hello to everybody out there in Free Webinar Wednesday world.
Greetings, everybody. This is Jeff Simpkins. I'm with Community Bank Consulting, Inc., and we work with community financial institutions on efficiency-type things, helping select systems and related areas. You can learn more about me and my company at www.communitybankconsulting.com.
Cool. Save money, make money. Use Jeff Simpkins, especially if you're a banker.
Banker or credit union.
Oh, there you go. Financial service
company.
Provider. There, yes.
Right.
If you touch money, you need to let Jeff help you make more of it and save spending it. That's what. That's the moral of the story. Those of you that aren't on, if you're, we had a little pre-show, kind of like Oprah has the post-show after her TV shows where they sit around and chit-chat and they turn the recording off. So Jeff and I discussed today some things and kind of acknowledge that I need to be more succinct and to the point when I communicate, as opposed to being so verbose and flowery with my language like what I'm doing right now. So I wanted to offer a couple little suggestions. Save money, make money. Jeff Simpkins. Short, sweet, boom.
I like it. So full disclosure for me this week is I have some things going on here at the office, and I may have to drop off. So if you call my name and you don't get anything, it either means I'm on mute and haven't unmuted myself, or I've had to drop off.
There you go. Well, it's good to know that. So if I start talking to myself, the audience will know what's going on. So before we officially get started, just kind of the preliminary housekeeping items. Thank you for joining those of you that have attended live. If you would like to offer a question, comment, feedback, please feel free, and we encourage you to do so, to use the chat function with your control panel floating on the right-hand side of your screen. We love hearing from our live audience members and always appreciate it when you take the time to let us know what you're thinking. Secondly, today's show and all shows are being recorded and made available at freewebinarwednesdays.com, so we encourage you to share it with friends and coworkers and colleagues and et cetera, to help spread the word. What I thought might be kind of cool, because some of what Jeff and I talked about was a little bit of a follow-up from last week's show, and in case you missed that or haven't had a chance to catch the replay, Jeff and I spent the hour talking about the concept of a mastermind group and how it works. Jeff has been involved in several mastermind groups. Incidentally, if you're interested in getting one started, I would suggest having a conversation with Jeff, and he can either help you develop it or talk to you about facilitating it. But Jeff invited me recently to a mastermind group that deals primarily with folks that sell or provide services into the financial services industry. And so during that conversation, we talked about a lot of the takeaways that we have both gotten from the mastermind process. And one of those was an idea shared about I'll call it I'm closing your file email. And we've all kind of been there where if you're trying to convert somebody to a new customer and you send an email and you call them and you text them and you know, variety of attempts that have all gone completely unanswered for whatever reason. Maybe they're busy, maybe they think that you'll continue to keep calling them, maybe they're just not interested, but they're afraid to tell you no. But we talked about crafting a message that goes out to an individual that just says, you know, we've tried, we know that we could do a good job for you, but apparently things have changed and we're going to stop hounding you. And so, Jeff, maybe I thought we could kick off with you maybe providing a recap of your other mastermind call, because there were two very different messages. One we got as an example from one of the mastermind participants in our group, and the other one that was the one that we created, or that I created, which, as no shocker to the audience, was a little bit more filled with words and maybe wasn't as forceful. But I thought maybe we could.
It had a lot of love in it.
It had a lot of love. You know, I hate to tell somebody like go away, but so maybe share that to get started, and then I want to spend some time kind of looking at the new, like we said in the write-up, some of the new stuff going on with LinkedIn, and this may be a relatively short. I don't know if we'll take the full hour since I know you've got some other stuff coming up, but those are the two things that I wanted to at least make sure we chatted about today.
Sure. So as Eric pointed out, this is kind of a bonus follow-up from last week's call. Eric and I are part of a mastermind group that works with people that sell into the financial services industry. One of the things that came up is when you're working with a prospect and you go on and on and on and on and reach out to them in a number of different ways, and they just kind of go dead. They don't respond to anything. In the example that we're offering here, there were emails, there were texts, there were phone calls to cell phone calls to desk phones, and went unanswered after this particular prospect showed some really strong interest and specifically asked that we follow up at a specific time. We discussed in our financial services mastermind group a good approach. One of our group members said that they reach a point where they tell the prospect that it's time for them to close the file and ask for the prospect to say either we want to move forward or it's fine, things have changed and we don't have an interest anymore. We got an example from one of our fellow mastermind members that Eric and I both thought the intent was good, but the language was more direct than we would choose. So Eric agreed to create a version that we were more comfortable with and did a really good job. I shared both of those with my mastermind group, and like us, they said that the original version was more direct than they were comfortable with. Their feedback on the version that we ended up sending was that it was it contained so much information that perhaps the prospect would lose the point. It gave the idea that we're closing the file, but then as they read into it, it felt as if, no, we're not really closing the file. So their feedback was still be, the word loving keeps coming up, still be professionally friendly, but also draw a clear line in the sand to say we're not going to be reaching out directly as much.
Well said. So I felt the example that we got was kind of like a warning shot across the bow that said we're done, go away. And I tried to leave the door open, but so anyway, and the thing that Jeff and I guess talked about when he provided me with that feedback is the other thing that we don't know is you want to make sure, and maybe this is or isn't a concern, but you want to make sure that when you're communicating, it carries across a similar communication style as what you have had in the past. So I think people that have ever gotten an email from me know I tend to share information and give a lot of detail, and right or wrong, that's just my communication style. And I felt somewhat uncomfortable sending a 2 or 3 sentence email that says, I've tried to continue the conversation, you've been unresponsive, so I'm closing the file. To me, that would have sent, if there was an interest and there was a possibility, it would have sounded very much like an auto-generated system message as opposed to something that genuinely came from me. But I think there needs to be an easy balance in between the two of those in order for me to make sure that the point isn't lost in the flowery language in the attempt to still maintain, maintain things So yeah, we've got a comment. Thank you, Mark. Very Sandler-like. So for those of you that are not familiar, referring to the Sandler sales training. I've never gone through that. So Mark, I don't know if the Sandler attempt is the short and sweet. We're done. We're firing you, and then they feel like the element of scarcity has been placed upon them, and they come back. Or if Sandler would be much more of we're closing the door, but are leaving opportunities for you to walk through it if you so choose. My gut tells me if it's sales training, and it's probably hardcore sales training, it's more the former than the latter. We're closing your file. Yeah, so it's probably straight out of Sandler. So, okay. There you go. Thank you, Linda. So, anyway, see, you ask for feedback, you ask for interactivity, and our free webinar Wednesday folks, they deliver. So, thank you for the input. So,
I think one thing worth noting is that the types of services that you and I sell into financial institutions really is not a one call, walk in, do your spiel, and expect to walk out with an order. They're high dollar sales. Sure. And one of the sales theories that I follow is a guy whose name is Neil Rackham, Rackham. He has a book called Spin Selling, and SPIN is an acronym for situation, problem, implication, need, payoff. He's very academic in his approach. He worked in research, and this book comes from research. Yep, that's the right one. And the whole premise of this book is when you're selling things that are in the tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands, or perhaps in the case of airplanes, millions of dollars, it's not the same approach as when you're selling something that may be a few hundred or a few $1,000s. So the Neil Rackham approach would differ from the Sandler approach that we've been discussing here because of the dollar amount of the transaction and the fact that what you and I are selling really is 100% based on establishing a long-term relationship. It's not a sell it once, deliver it, and you're done kind of item.
Yep. So, good. Well, thank you for indulging me, and I don't know, Jeff, as if you even knew I was planning on having this discussion, but you kind of spurred a thought when we were having our, so you never know what, it's like a box of chocolates here at Free Webinar Wednesdays. You never know what you're going to get. I'm sure I'll have to probably pay royalties to some movie house now that I've used a reference from a Tom Hanks movie, but that's all right. So anyway, so if you didn't get a chance to check out the mastermind discussion, would strongly encourage you to check that out. Jeff also talks about Jack Canfield's success principles as being a great resource, and I shared in that webinar that was one of the first books that I got when I made the decision to leap from the comfort of the banking job into a consultative career as a digital marketing strategist. So so that's a great book to stick on your shelf after you've read it, of course, but one to check out. So anything else to talk with regards to Mastermind that is just itching to get out of you, or shall we hop over and kind of walk through some of the LinkedIn stuff?
I think we're ready to talk about LinkedIn, the winds of change blowing.
Yeah, so I was going to do a little Photoshop and put a little cloud blowing and make the LinkedIn look like it was flying around, but just didn't have enough time to do some Photoshop creativity. So you got the logo there, but as it mentions in the write-up, in case you missed it, Microsoft recently acquired LinkedIn for $26 billion, and I've read a lot of different stories about either that's going to help or hurt Microsoft and or LinkedIn. It's going to kill LinkedIn. I've read where with Microsoft Office being the leading business productivity suite, whether or not you'll be able to see any sort of LinkedIn integration directly within Word or Outlook or Exchange and socialize those programs more. So I don't think anything has really been formally decided. There's a lot of speculation going on as to how Microsoft is going to use LinkedIn, but they've got enough cash laying in the bank that $26 billion is probably not that big of a expenditure, but it certainly is one that I think a lot of business professionals are eager to see what happens, because LinkedIn, being the world's largest business professional network, is an area that people spend their time on, and whether it's for recruiting or information gathering, networking, I think we're all very curious and anxious to see what's going to happen here. And so it's ironic that Facebook within the last couple of weeks released or is in the process of releasing a new page layout for businesses, where they've taken the profile picture and moved it to the left-hand side. They have eliminated clutter over the actual cover photo, which previously didn't have clutter on it, and they moved a bunch of buttons up on it, and then now they're taking the buttons off. So the new Facebook layout is a little bit more sales and promotional orientated, a little bit cleaner. And thanks to our WSI at Work portal, which we belong to at WSI, we've actually got Facebook's kind of private intranet platform. One of my colleagues actually shared a sneak peek at IBM's business page, and I'm pulling that up right now so we can take a look at it. And what I may do is take a look at, and we'll put up, maybe see what Oracle looks like. So let's, and I'm sure Mr. Ellison would love the fact that I'm comparing IBM to Oracle. But I wanted to kind of pull these two side by side, because these are pretty big hitters. You can see that, they've got 2 million followers, 1.8 million followers. So as is most of the case, anytime a change happens in social media, they typically start with the big dogs first, because that's where the kind of economies of scale exist. And so this is the kind of the traditional page that exists now. So most of you that have got business pages for your organization are seeing something similar to this. And it shifted a little bit in kind of layout and format about a year or so ago. But you can see that I think the banner used to be at the top. But you've got your logo, you've got your home, which is where all your conversation threads and everything are located. You've got a careers section. So both of these organizations are obviously interested in using, and are probably paying for, LinkedIn's premium career service for hiring and jobs, although some smaller organizations may not be able to afford those services. On the right-hand side, you've got your connections if you're interested in a career. They also, about a year or two ago, did away with what was referred to as product and services within the actual platform. So you used to be able, for example, if you were a bank, you could have a mortgage product and you could list information about that. And then you could have checking and savings products and you could list information about those. They did away with the product and service pages, and they implemented what's referred to as a showcase page. And these are little microsites within the actual bigger organization, so that if you're interested in Oracle's Marketing Cloud, you can see Oracle has 1.8 million followers as Oracle as a company, but there's only 22,000 followers that are doing anything with related, that are interested in what's going on the marketing side of things. Their social even has fewer. So it's getting more and more granular. But if you're really interested in Oracle Social and you don't want to follow the big page because you may get a lot of other information that's not really relevant to your interests, that's where you go in and you can actually follow the individual profile pages. So if we go in and we take a look, you can see now this is the actual profile page, and it kind of gives you, so you can follow this individually, or you can go ahead and you can jump back to the actual, this is a showcase page by Oracle, and you can jump back to the mothership. And then there's also a listing of some of the other pages that exist. So the bigger an organization is, the more niche, or with my Canadian friends on the line, niche your products and services are, the higher the likelihood is that you'll be able to use a showcase page and provide the type of content to keep that specific information going. But you can see a showcase page, different layout, more card-based. It's really just kind of layout info as opposed to careers and who's following you and, you know, get a job here. If we take a look at, and let me go ahead and go back to the original Oracle page itself. If we go and we take a look at an IBM page, this is drastically different, and you can see that we've got a company beta list up here. So I don't know, I've not been able to really track anything down as to whether or not this is something that will be released, or if you'll have to opt in, or if they're going to provide this as a paid alternative to a traditional business page. If you're using LinkedIn, you know you can use a free LinkedIn account, or you can use one of the paid accounts. And that gives you greater access to things like search query information, member profile data, details on people that have seen your profile. You can send LinkedIn in-mails. You get a more quantity of those. And so this could be a play of LinkedIn providing an opportunity to monetize a business relationship, or just giving businesses a little bit more flexibility over their, you know, the story that they're telling for their business. So, and if anybody is on the line live and knows the answers to those questions, by all means, feel free to toss some info into the chat, and we'll keep an eye on that. But if you take a look at the IBM page, following, you've got follow versus unfollow. They've done away with the button that's yellow versus gray. It's now just a single color. You can quickly jump in, and it looks like, to me, the focus of this page has got a little bit more job related. You've got the overview, which is really just kind of information about the company and what they have been presenting and posting and sharing, but you almost have to scroll 3/4 of the way down the page before you can even get to any company updates. Pictures are a little bit larger, so image size has certainly been increased, so it's a little bit more visually focused. But then the other thing you'll notice is these are clickable cards that then dynamically change the information that's below. So here's a couple of skills that, based off of my profile information, thinking maybe I'd be interested in web development or Java programming. It knows where I live here in Michigan, so it's bringing up some of the Lansing area opportunities. I can link here and go to all jobs. Here's some of the other jobs that are posted. So, and then you've got other sorts of employee insights that are previously unavailable on just the regular company page. And so again, the larger the organization is, the more employees that are going to be part of that organization, the more detail LinkedIn can share about you. The other thing that's new that I've not really seen on like the Oracle or other pages is the culture. And so if we click on culture, you can see we've got an opportunity here for a big video. Not really sure if this is always going to be a video or if these are going to be selectable options behind the scenes that'll give an organization the ability to say, I want a big picture here, I want to upload a video, maybe integrate a SlideShare PowerPoint presentation or a PDF document. But looks like this is kind of an area where you can watch a video. You've got, I'm not exactly sure, what the difference is within a scene, ASEAN. So haven't really explored that a whole lot. But then when you scroll down, you've got some other promotional items that are much more focused on building some ideas around the culture. So not really sure how many of these different promotional areas you get, but you can see you've got some calls to action as well as some text and some image areas. And then the other thing that they've done, which is very similar to maybe a Google Plus profile or a Google Business profile page, is the ability to upload company photos. And so you can see they've got a variety of photos that they've added here, which previously were not available in the old LinkedIn profile. So if you've got an organization and you want to highlight some of your unique office characteristics, or maybe your organization in and around the community being active, you've got some company photos. And then you've also got some employee perspectives. So these could very well be solicited testimonials Much like on a personal profile page, you can have somebody give you an endorsement or a testimonial. These can actually be endorsements or testimonials maybe based off of kind of the organization or pulling in things that employees have actually shared. And then you've got a smaller kind of recapture of some of the employee-related information. Within your own individual profile, LinkedIn has made it possible for you to kind of indicate what organizations or nonprofits that you support. So there appears to be some aggregation of that information. So if you have a lot of employees that support the American Cancer Society or United Way, my suspicion is it's going to automatically aggregate those employees, organizations or nonprofits, and then a subtle link back into their job area so you can go ahead and hop back in and look for employment. So Jeff, if you're still there, go ahead and unmute if you are still with us. We'll give it a little bit.
I'm here.
Good. So I sent you this link. I don't know if you had much time to take a peek at it, but I wanted to spend some time kind of getting your thoughts on this and seeing kind of the difference between old and new and the different cleaner look. What are your preliminary impressions? And I will also ask the audience if they have any thoughts that they would also like to share while you're maybe giving us some of your impressions.
Well, it's certainly a more modern look. I've always thought of, I hadn't really put this word to it before, but if I had to put a word to it, I've always thought of LinkedIn look as conservative. This looks a little more mainstream than their traditional look.
Yeah. I like the life, and again, I don't know as if we'll have the ability to change this to something else or discover our culture if we've got different calls to action, if this can be called something different. But I like the fact that conservative is a good, sterile also kind of jumps to my mind, and this seems like it's a little bit more focused on building an impression or seeking to establish a relationship or a feeling, as opposed to the sterility of what you see here, where it just essentially regurgitates some information and then you're right into the updates. The new version has got a little bit more personality to it, which I kind of like. Like the images.
New version flows more like a magazine, actually.
Yeah.
Has a very, almost a USA Today feel to it, which is,
yep.
I'm sure, quite deliberate on their part.
Yeah. And if you work at IBM, you get to sit with a dinosaur on your shoulder. So that's always a cool thing. So so I guess, you know, we'll kind of keep an eye on this as more details come out, or I uncover some additional little nuggets in future shows. We may very well come back and do like what we did with the mastermind, quick little recap. You know, if we've got any additional information, share it. But I wanted to at least give everybody a heads up of what was coming. If we pop over to Facebook and we take a look, just for consistency purposes, let's take a look and see what the IBM Facebook page looks like. Kind of get an idea of some of the things that have changed within the Facebook page. So you've got your navigation is cleaner and more simplified here. Your calls to action, big watch video. This is customizable, so it can be a watch a video, contact us, download an app. Your cover photo is now unencumbered with things like, you know, you used to have your profile image sitting in the bottom left-hand corner, had buttons on the top, it had the industry or kind of the business type over the top, which was always a challenge because before they put the buttons actually on the actual cover photo, we had a lot of banks that would have their mandatory, equal housing lender, member FDIC down here in the bottom right, and then the buttons came along and covered those up. And now the buttons are gone, so if you visit a Facebook page, and the bottom portion of the image and the upper, or I guess the lower left-hand corner is completely void of any information, that'll probably be a good sign that they've not gone through and actually updated their info. Some of the about information is here. Used to be your apps would show up across the top. They've now relocated those over into the right-hand side. So your popular apps, you can see that you're also being able to quickly get to jobs that are available at IBM here, just as you could on their LinkedIn page. You've got some photos. So I think they're kind of mirroring, they being LinkedIn, some of the things that maybe they've noticed have been happening in some of the other social networks that are starting to kind of make part of a social profile. So essentially, that was kind of the main thing that I wanted to talk about. Unless there's anything else that's on your mind, I do have maybe one other thing just as a heads up for folks, but I'll let you share any other additional thoughts on LinkedIn, Facebook.
I'm good.
All right. I'm hesitantly asking questions, hoping that I get a response, and you haven't dropped off yet. So the only other thing, just as a public service announcement, within the world of the web, and I'm suspecting the majority of you that are joining today either are part of or maybe run an organization, and you probably have a website, and that website is your front door to the world of digital. There has always been what's referred to as web standards. You can think of that as kind of accessibility, ADA compliance. In a traditional business, that is the law or the rules that govern the pitch at which ramps into your building can allow wheelchairs, and the width of the doors, and the height of drinking fountains. That same standard is now starting to be applied in the world of the web, and there's been what's referred to as W3C, but the World Wide Web Consortium standards and guidelines, and that gives you best practices if you're a web developer of things that you should have that are part of your website. And we have started seeing, and there are some attorneys out there that are starting to draft letters to organizations like Sears and the NCAA and Eddie Bauer and the L'Oreal Company, claiming that plaintiffs have tried using their website and have been unable to do so due to lack of consistency and ADA accommodations. So how the text is not able to be bigger or smaller, alternate use of descriptions, closed captioning for videos. I mean, there's a variety of different things that are out there. We're still in the early stages, but one of our clients actually received a letter from one of these attorney firms indicating that they represent a client who was trying to use their website and was unable to do so. And at the top of the actual letter that the client received, it had, "For settlement purposes only." My impression of this is there are certain individuals in the legal profession that have recognized this as an opportunity to go after business owners, and instead of encouraging or allowing things to improve as sites get updated and kind of changed and allow the evolution, there's specific mention to attorney fees and damages. And I just want to give folks a heads up. I've seen deadlines as late as fall of 2018, yet I've seen existing case law cited from a variety of different plaintiffs versus very large companies. I'm going to leave my personal opinions to the best of my ability, although you can kind of get an idea of what perspective I'm coming from out of this. But suffice to say, it's certainly something that is worth taking a look at as it relates to your website and your digital presence, because it is a very slippery slope, in my opinion. And if we just take an example of a bank website for sake of argument, somebody may claim that they cannot effectively browse the bank's website. That gets fixed. We have control over that. What happens next? The bank or your business might use third-party services to collect application data, to process e-commerce transactions, to provide a community environment for members of your organization, chat boards, a variety of different things that fall outside of your control. Those very well could be next on the list. And so as we look at vendors and relationships and services, it's a checkbox that unfortunately is going to have to start getting paid attention to. The risk, speaking as a digital marketing professional, is returning to all of my clients and telling them it's going to cost, a few hundred to several thousands of dollars to rectify things that may very well be necessary, could paint me as you're just capitalizing on some of this new stuff to charge me for updates to my website that, in all honesty, aren't going to generate more sales. They're not going to be better from an SEO perspective, maybe a little bit, but not a tremendous amount. There's going to really be no noticeable difference to the visitors to the website. So it's a little bit of a catch-22. And so Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, WCAG 2.0, is kind of what you want to be looking for, and kind of get some ideas, familiarize yourself. If you just do a search for WCAG 2.0, you'll find some information. There's some testing tools out there. When we get some time to kind of explore this a little further, we likely will come back with a show that talks about this in a little bit more detail. But I just wanted to offer a little public service announcement for folks that have joined us to put that on your radar screen, make sure, set up a Google alert, pay attention to some of the conversation that's going on around this, and stay tuned, because this is not an issue that's going to be going away anytime soon. So, if you are still there, Jeff, I would welcome any commentary you may have, if any, regarding web accessibility. Otherwise, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap the show a little early today.
Well, this comment's kind of just general relative to businesses of any size, including small businesses. The information that you just provided is extremely valuable. And my comment is, as small business people, we never really thought of having compliance costs that much previously. One of the things I've noticed in running my own business over the last few years is there is now a figure when I go to prepare my tax return at the end of each year that literally is always in the thousands of dollars, which is a lot of money for a small business, that gets sunk up in compliance costs. Doesn't generate any revenue, doesn't generate any sales. It's simply to comply with regulations. And I think you've just given us a good example of something that even the smallest of businesses are going to have to recognize is going to become a compliance cost for them.
Yeah. I think in the world of banking, we're certainly accustomed to compliance being a pretty significant expense item on our balance sheet, because that's what we do as bankers, and we have to make sure we're compliant. We have rules and laws and regs that we have to follow in order to make sure our customers' identity, money, privacy, etc., are protected. I think for the average business owner, however, that typically doesn't have to worry about compliance-related costs, I think this is going to be somewhat of an eye-opening experience. And it's not something that I think is even on the radar screen for, I can tell you for my banks for sure, but certainly for general businesses that really don't have any exposure. So we're in the process of actually starting to include now a line item that provides, although we don't know exactly what the specific cost is going to be, a line item within our agreements that will stipulate that we will take into consideration accessibility guidelines and, as economically feasible as possible, make sure that there are, compliant alternatives. One of the things I've been talking with my development team about is creating a completely different standalone version of any website that we build moving forward that is just pure text. There's no images, there's no video. It is just a pure text website that provides the ability to increase or decrease the font size. And it's very similar to, several years ago, before responsive mobile web development gave you the ability to share one website across multiple devices thanks to a responsive skeletal skin. We're now going to have an ADA compliant or an accessibility enabled version of the website and a standard version of the website that does all the cool things that a website does these days. But there's a lot of technology now that's being built into websites with parallax design, scrolling navigation, interactive video playing in the background. That's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to fully make ADA compliant. One of the parallels that I see with this is when we received the mandate as a bank that all of our drive-up ATM machines needed to have Braille keyboards installed, because there's the possibility that somebody could drive up to an ATM with a blind person sitting in the back seat that would be interested in using your drive-up ATM machine. And I'm not making fun of nor discrediting the needs of folks that are sight challenged or disabled in any way, but at some point, there needs to be, I guess, a business case around all of this. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this evolves, but just wanted to put that on your radar screen so that if your web developer comes back to you and says we should do this and this is how much it's going to cost and this is a compliance issue and it is more than what you thought and you're not going to get any business value for it, you need to understand there's a reason beyond just the web developer trying to, squeeze more income out of their clients to figure out a reason to do more work for you. It is certainly something that, I don't know, it's just, we're just going to watch it. So there.
I think it's worthwhile to mention, Eric, that things like this only tend to be noticeable when they're new. So, today there's a good chance that you are going to have to go to clients and say, we've become aware of something that may apply to you. Ultimately, it's your decision as a business person as to whether you wish to do something proactively in this area. But the bottom line is, going forward, it'll just be part of the web development package. I think it will be less noticeable.
Yep, I bet you're right. So, cool. Well, that wraps it for me. I think I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, but I also want to restate it here. We are going to be taking a couple of weeks off. I will be traveling to Kansas City next week to participate in a community banking conference, and we'll be doing a live kind of training for bank folks and showing them how to get their own little Twitter accounts set up and configured, and we'll be doing some tweeting and some posting and hopefully get some bankers on social media that haven't been there before. And then the week after that, I'll be traveling to Seattle, where I am excited to be one of the newest faculty members at the Pacific Coast Banking School, the University of Wisconsin. That's the GSB, that's where I was last week, at the University of Washington. And so I'll be out there in Seattle at PCBS, and so not going to be able to make the next couple of weeks. So we'll take a little bit of a hiatus, and we will be back when September hits. So hard to believe August is just about a thing in the rearview mirror, Jeff.
It is very hard to believe. Before you know it, our weather reports that we missed today, by the way, are going to include chilly weather.
There you go. Well, my weather report is red sky at night, sailor's delight. So that that was a picture I took up at the cottage a couple of days ago. An unfiltered photo, did not go into Instagram and add a red filter to it, but that's a shot of the sunset and our neighbor's boats, as well as a little cameo from Ryder the Wonder Dog. So it's a pretty day at the lake, although it's a little bit windier and wavy right now, but a couple nights ago it was beautiful outside. So there's my weather report.
I haven't seen Ryder the Wonder Dog since he was a puppy and was jumping off my dock. How old is he now?
I think he's 9. Yeah.
Oh, so,
wow. Yep. So, but yeah. So anyway, well, Jeff, always a pleasure. Thank you again for joining me with our free webinar Wednesday effort. Some good stuff, and I'm excited to kind of watch the evolution of LinkedIn. Not so excited to see how this whole ADA compliance stuff evolves, but we're no strangers to compliance, so it's certainly something that we need to keep an eye on.
All right. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, cool. Everybody, for joining us. And this is Jeff. I will look forward to meeting up here again in a few weeks.
Yep. To quote a song, we'll see you in September. And I won't sing it. Don't worry. So until then,
I won't sing. Try to remember the kind of September.
Exactly. So have a great couple of weeks. Enjoy the rest of August, and we will see you all back here at Free Webinar Wednesdays next month. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.